Welcome to the NZ Travel Show, an interactive show where you can ask your NZ travel questions to the experts behind nzpocketguide.com, New Zealand's largest travel guide. The NZ Travel Show will start in exactly 2 minutes. Just the time for you to hit the like button, ring the notification bell, and subscribe if you have not done so yet. NZPocketGuide.com has over 3,000 articles covering all aspects of travelling in New Zealand, from a working holiday gap year to tips for a perfect family holiday. The site also features dozens of pre-made itineraries that you can use to plan your ideal trip in New Zealand. It's all available for free at nzpocketguide.com, so check it out. The NZ Travel Show is hosted by Robin, the Operations Manager of South Pacific Pocket Guide, the company behind nzpocketguide.com. The New Zealand Travel Show is also hosted by Laura, a journalist and editor-in-chief of South Pacific Pocket Guide and all its publications, including nzpocketguide.com. We're exactly 1 minute away from the NZ Travel Show. Get yourself comfortable and start asking your NZ travel questions in the chat. Robin and Laura will go over them when the show starts. In 30 seconds, our experts will be live from New Zealand to give you all the practical New Zealand travel tips you need, from the best transport options to the best accommodations and activities to choose for the perfect New Zealand holiday. Live from New Zealand, this is the NZ Travel Show with your travel experts, Robin and Laura.
Hey guys, how are you doing? It's not going on my face, is it? I hope you guys heard this one. Okay, I hope that everybody is doing well. Apologies for the delay, 15 minutes delay today. But yeah,
that's pretty standard in New Zealand,
yeah.
You know, to show up, 15 minutes late is actually early in New Zealand. So we're just getting you guys ready for coming here, that's all.
Long story short, don't use Google Chrome. It is basically one of the worst browsers for both your privacy and the performances of your computer. Anyway, that's it. That's okay. We sorted that out, and we are now live for an awesome live show. We appreciate everybody keeping us entertained. So although we couldn't respond for quite a while, we actually did get to read all the comments you guys were chatting. So we saw Kiwi Lauren saying that she's 105 days prior to her departure.
Fabio's 110 days.
Yeah, so everybody was chatting about everything. Nathan was saying hi all the way from Taupo. Saying everybody, saying hi to everybody else that is watching, which was really cool. Fabio was mocking the fact that I was chatting with the support chat. Yeah, they're not the most useful people. They mostly kind of make you waste your time. And so, anyway, it's all here. We even have Robert Laliberte here. So, that's pretty awesome. Morena from Old Rodeo, California, says Anthony. And we even have Rick. What is Rick saying?
Rick is saying, good evening, everyone, from Berlin.
Guten Nacht. All the way to you in Berlin. And we have the great Lawrence, one of our lovely Patreon. What is she saying?
She's saying, hello, Laura, Robin, and everyone here.
Okay, so just bear with us for a second as we just kind of getting back into the gist of things. I have to say that did rattle us a little bit, to have to deal with YouTube,
when
people,
you're waiting for live chat responses, your energy just dips low. You're like, come on, just answer it already. Help us solve our issue. But we solved the issue, and we're ready to go.
All right, so as per usual, let's get started with a theme of the week. However, if you do have some questions that are nothing to do with the theme of the week, but still to do with, traveling in New Zealand, go ahead and put them in the chat. We're here to answer all of them for you. Let's just start with our theme of this week.
Yeah. So our theme of the week is
how to travel around New Zealand by bus. So today we're going to be talking about everything that there is to know about traveling by bus. Should you want to take national coach bus lines all around New Zealand? Should you want to travel with a hop-on, hop-off network? Should you just take a tourist bus around New Zealand? Or should you want to use the commuting buses to transport yourself through the major cities of New Zealand? We'll cover everything there is to do with traveling by bus in New Zealand. Robert is talking about FOMO. Yeah, Kiwi Lauren was saying like she was scared of not being able to do everything. I think in New Zealand is that what was that? It's reporting to like it's relating to like many weeks ago.
Yeah, I cannot remember myself. I have to admit, but yeah.
All right. Okay, so we're going to get started with our theme this week, and we're going to get started with some quick tips for traveling around New Zealand by bus. So Laura, take it away.
All right, so yeah, just some quick tips, some nice easy ones to ease us into talking about this subject. So first of all, one tip I'd like to give to anyone is to try and purchase your bus pass, whether it's for a bus tour or for hop-on, hop-off bus like you experience. Purchase your bus pass in the low season of New Zealand, which is between April to August. Usually there's a lot of discounts on bus passes during this time, but the good thing is that usually you don't need, if you're getting a bus pass, for instance, with Kiwi Experience or some bus tours as well, some bus passes allow you to actually travel later in the year, so you don't necessarily have to go for a specific date. Sometimes you can just keep that bus pass on hold and then make use of it later. Another tip is to ask the driver which is the best side of the bus to sit on for the views. So every day when you're getting on the bus, you can just say like, hey, which is going to be the best side for views today? And that's just a easy way to make the most of your trip day by day. Packing some snacks is another quick tip, so it's a good icebreaker, sharing snacks on the bus, that sort of thing. Good way to start a conversation with people if you are traveling on your own and meeting lots of new people for the first time. Also, another thing to do with food is to pack your own lunch. So as you are starting the day perhaps in a hostel and you can, prepare your own lunch and stuff. That way, when you're traveling around and there's usually buses are stopping at cafes where there's usually quite expensive cabinet food, you can save a ton of money by actually picking up groceries the day before and preparing sandwiches and stuff like that in your hostel to take with you on the bus. Also pack a layer. So in the bus, temperature control can be all over the place. They can sometimes put air conditioning on. They can sometimes, not have air conditioning on and you're super hot. So just make sure that you have the options to put on more layers if you need to. Although there's a sort of hint in New Zealand that buses and things are usually not on time, it is a good idea to make sure that you are actually on time yourself, because the one time that the bus departs on this actual proper departure time will be that'll be the one time you're late and you miss the bus, and bus drivers are usually quite grumpy when they're like, you need to be on time. Even if you're going on coffee breaks or having a lunch stop, you need to make sure that you are back in the designated place that you need to be at. And then finally, this is one for if you're using city buses, make sure that you are waving the bus driver, like getting their attention. If you're waiting at a bus stop, they don't necessarily stop at all the bus stops unless you indicate that you want to get on that bus. So make sure that you wave down the bus driver, and that is kind of how you get on a public bus in New Zealand.
Yeah, that's true. You've got to be on time for the bus, but the bus doesn't necessarily need to be on time for you.
I know.
So yeah, that's a very, very good tip.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back toward the live chat. So Morena from Rodeo, California says Anthony Comstock. Kiwi Lauren is bragging about the fact that it's her third time in New Zealand.
Ooh.
And she's already spent a total of 6 months here. So she knows everything about everything in New Zealand. Matua X says Morena from the South Island instead of the North Island. Exciting. That's pretty cool.
Whereabouts on the South Island are you?
Yeah. We also have Lee Spasova saying, folks, great show. Thank you very much, Lee. You're awesome. saying, do you know anything about the new UK NZ travel for young people setup that extends to the age of 35 and the period of stay to 3 years? So it's nothing new at all, but yeah.
Oh, for the age range going up to 35, that's been announced.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been implemented yet.
Yeah.
So there has been talks between the New Zealand government and the UK government. But it is just like they've had the talks, but it hasn't been actually solidified into the working holiday scheme, which currently for UK people coming to New Zealand, it's currently for ages 18 to 30-year-olds.
So again, it's the working holiday visa. Lee, if you want to do some research, it's the working holiday visa, and that's been available for decades now for people from the UK coming to New Zealand, and they are looking into extending the age range up to 35 years old. And so that will allow you to spend 23 months in New Zealand. Now, if you want to spend more than 23 months in New Zealand, there is a small extension that you can get through a company which is now called Genza. It used to be called Bunak, but it's now called Genza. It's a company that's going to charge you a lot of money for that. So maybe take you 23 months and just see how it goes first. That would be our strong hint for this one. And so, aside from that, we do actually have extensive information for you on the website. So the website is nzpocketguide.com. So I'll quickly show it to you right here. So if you were to go on nzpocketguide.com right here, you can go on work in New Zealand right here on the side, and there's working holiday visa right here. And we've got plenty of info for you just right there with everything to do with your working holiday visa, as well as look at that, how to extend it for if you are from the UK, for example. So there is plenty of info for you right here, and it's all free on the website. So happy times. Rick is saying,
I am a very big kiwi lover, the fruit.
What? You hate the people?
Or the birds? Saying, so when my journey starts in New Zealand, picking them as well is a no-brainer for me. What season and area is actually the best to do so?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So, shall I get started with the best area? The best sort of area to go for kiwi fruit picking is in the Bay of Plenty, specifically around the area of Tauranga and Te Puke. So obviously the way that I'm pronouncing it may seem a little bit weird on the spelling, so maybe Robin can quickly type Tauranga and Te Puke into the...
I did better.
He did better. He gave you a link in the live chat, Rick. So that area, so that's in the North Island, and that has a huge kiwi fruit picking industry. And there's also working hostels there, which means that basically you can get your accommodation by staying in a hostel, such as the Pacific Coast Lodge in the Mount Maunganui area. Just a little bit of a shout out there. But there are other working hostels. And you can stay there, and they actually find the job for you and provides, usually people group together, and they provide a van so everyone can go and transport over to their job. It just makes it super easy. You're with like-minded people that are also doing the job with you, and that would be like the way that we would recommend doing that.
Yeah, make it easy for yourself. You know what I mean? It's like, why bother, right?
So and that way, like, they pretty much give the job to anyone, so you won't really find too, as long as you've got a valid work visa, of course. Like a working holiday visa.
So you still need to do all the steps of like getting your work visa, your IRD number,
have
your
a New Zealand bank account,
all those kind of steps that we talk about all the time. I bet you have watched some other videos, Rick, so you may know that that's kind of the thing that we talk about all the time. So
and in terms of the month,
I was about to say that, but you go.
And in terms of the months, the best months to do kiwi fruit picking, they're the months of April, May, June, July, and August.
There you go. If you want some more information, there is plenty on NZ Pocket Guide. I gave you one link already, Rick. And if you feel like you want even more support for your gap year in New Zealand, and if you want to, like a couple of Kiwi people, not Kiwi the fruit, you can join us on Patreon. There's a link in the description below. It's super cheap, and you'll be able to have access to us basically all week long. We have a secret Facebook group where we hang out, and we give a lot of support. Armin from Armin's Biggest Gap Year, that we're gonna watch his video at some point during this live show right here. Well, he is also one of our Patreons. So it's a great group of like-minded people. It's fun. Kiwi Lauren, which is in here, is actually a Patreon as well. Matthew IX is a Patreon as well. All you guys are pretty awesome. Okay, Robert says, my trip to the Southern Hemisphere was a once-in-a-lifetime odyssey. Another long trip does not excite me. I certainly have no regrets, and my bucket list is one item shorter. Maybe when they perfected the Star Trek teleportation machine, but till then, to quote Scotty, you do the quote of Scotty.
I can't handle any more long-distance travel, Captain.
Little lassie.
As a nerdy Star Trek fans, we do appreciate that reference there, Robert.
Laura is a very, very strong, very big Trekkie.
I am indeed.
Yeah. All right, guys. All right, so as you keep going with some questions and everything else, we're going to take a quick 5 minutes to actually talk a little bit about more of our theme today. So let's get started with the national coach buses, which is kind of like the countrywide public transportation to go around New Zealand. It's basically the most expensive public transport network in the whole country.
Expansive, not expensive.
Yeah, expensive. Yeah, or extensive as well.
Yeah.
So it's akin to what you would get in Europe as like your train networks, right? They go in pretty much every cities, and you can go to many places. Well, in New Zealand, we kind of doing it by bus. So let's begin with a few questions back and forth, so you get to understand a little bit the national bus network. So let's begin with which company run the national bus network in New Zealand?
Okay, so there's basically one major national coach company in New Zealand, and that's Intercity. Basically, they're pretty much got the monopoly in the whole country in terms of bus travel and, like A to B coach network travel. However, there's very small companies, more on the South Island, that do very limited routes. For instance, there's Atomic Travel, which just have a route between Christchurch and Greymouth, for example. So there is those sort of options when you get into some, areas of the South Island, but mostly you will be looking at Intercity while in New Zealand.
Now, which national coach buses so we have closed? So there's a lot of companies that have come in and gone and so on. Some people may have heard of some of them. So which one are no longer available?
Okay, so there's been quite a few over the years. Really, back in the day, there was Magic Bus, and that no longer exists in New Zealand. There was also Naked Bus, although their website is still up and running. They are not actually a bus company themselves anymore. They don't provide any bus services. There was Manor Bus, but again, that's closed. That no longer exists. And just before the pandemic, Skip Bus opened, but then the pandemic hit, and then they were no longer operating, and they're still not operating as of the time of recording this video, and we haven't received any news of when if they're going to start up again.
Okay, so what is it like to travel in national coach buses in New Zealand?
Okay, so in terms of using the coach buses, they're pretty much from A to B. That's the first thing you need to know. You're not going on necessarily a set route around the country, but
No, so basically what you do is that you buy a ticket for one kind of section that you want to travel, let's say from Wellington to Auckland, for example. So it's pretty simple. You buy your ticket either online or through any of the agents, and then you show up about 15 minutes before departure, and you hop on the bus, and that's kind of like how the basic of how it works. However, there is also another way two other ways to travel through the national coach buses in New Zealand, and that's the Flexi Pass and the Travel Pass. Now, Laura, what is a Flexi Pass?
So a Flexi Pass is basically you're buying travel hours, they're called. So instead of buying just one ticket, you have an allocated set of hours that you can use to say the route between Auckland and Wellington takes 4 hours. I'm just pulling that out of the air. That's not necessarily true, but say it's 4 hours, then you allocate 4 hours of your credit towards them. So it's a way to pay for multiple bus journeys, but just once.
And so when we talk about 4 hours, like let's say there is a delay and the trip takes 5 hours because the bus gets broken or anything, it doesn't affect like how much hours you will have spent of your pass. Those hours are just kind of decided by the company. Like that trip, let's say from Auckland to Rotorua, will always be 4 hours and be worth 4 hours of your pass. Now there is another type of pass that you can get with Intercity, and that's the Travel Pass.
Yeah, so the Travel Pass is actually around a set route. So you decide, there's various routes you can choose from, and you just basically decide, okay, I want to pay this much money to travel, say, one loop, set route, a loop around the North Island, or a set loop around the South Island, or the whole country, and it's a set itinerary, so it's kind of the itinerary is sorted for you. You only pay one fee for that.
All right, so in short, how the national buses work, you can get tickets one by one to go from point A to point B. You can get a travel pass and you can get a flexi pass. All right, so now what is it like to travel with Intercity? What is a day in the life of a passenger of Intercity?
Okay, so usually you are given an allocated time and place to go and catch a bus. So usually it's recommended that you go there, you be at the bus stop 15 minutes early. The bus may be there early, taking passengers on, like sorting out luggage and that sort of thing. Usually give your name and perhaps your receipt or bus number details to the bus driver as you're getting on the bus. And then from there, you are taking your journey, which sometimes the bus driver provides commentary about the places that you're seeing. So in some way, it's kind of like a tour bus in that respect, but in other respects it's not like a tour bus, because you're not necessarily stopping to stop at short walks or to go to waterfalls or photo stops and viewpoints like other bus tours that we're going to talk about later that they would do. Basically the only time you're stopping it depends on the duration of the time you're on the bus, but for longer journeys they'll stop for usually about 10 to 15 minutes for toilet and coffee break, and then sometimes about half an hour for a lunch break. So that's pretty much that in a nutshell.
Now, is there some kind of night buses that you can take where you can sleep in the bus, a bit like what sometimes they do in Greyhound in the US?
So there is one night bus, which in New Zealand is called the sleeper bus. It is run by Intercity and it goes between Auckland and Wellington, and it does have comforts in there like beds. So yeah, there is just one night bus.
All right, so let's move on to the pros and the cons. Obviously, pros and cons are kind of like a big deal. So let's start with the pros of traveling with Intercity in New Zealand, Laura.
Yeah. So obviously the biggest pro for Intercity is that it is the cheapest transport method for getting around New Zealand. So that's obviously the number one thing. For another pro would be that it allows for independent travel because their network is so extensive. They go to most towns in New Zealand. It means that you can, if you want to plan a crazy itinerary to some really different places, you definitely have the flexibility to do that with Intercity. And also they have daily departures across the country. So usually, you can travel on the bus at least once per day. They'll have at least one departure from a set location per day.
All right, and let's talk about the cons. I didn't forget.
So the cons is that it's not as social as some other buses. So you are sharing this bus experience with a whole mixed crowd. You'll have people that are just, traveling across the country to see their family or commuting to the place where they have to work for the week. Or you'll have people that are traveling, like actually, backpacking or whatever. You might have families, you might have old people, whole mixed bag. But compared to like going on a bus tour where you are traveling with lots of people that are also, really excited to be traveling around New Zealand, it's not quite the same vibe on the Intercity bus. It's usually a lot quieter, and you may or may not be talking to the people next to you depending on who they are and what they want, and maybe they don't want to speak to you, so so that's
it's okay. I'll talk to you, Laura.
I'm not speaking from experience or anything. And then another con is that the buses, like I say, they don't stop anywhere on their journey. They don't stop for walks. They don't stop for photo stops or anything. So it is like on the road, you're gonna be missing some stuff. But that's the way it is. Yeah.
All right, so let's go back to the live chat. So Rick is saying thank you for the links. I guess that's for the link. I'm not sure why you're saying thank you for this.
Or maybe just answering the question.
Yeah, maybe just, being nice. Maybe that's just that. Thank you for being nice. If you see Laura in a bus, Rick, when you're traveling around New Zealand, just talk to her.
Just talk to me.
Don't ignore her. Apparently she has a big scar right here she's dealing with. Okay, Macho X also said that he had a wedding in the South Island yesterday, and tonight he started Korero Tereo Marui, which means speaking Maori, and it was fun. Nice. That's pretty awesome. And are you going to be traveling and seeing a few spots, or are you just commuting from A to B with Intercity. What's going on?
Are you going to be sat on the Intercity bus talking to no one?
Yes. Are you going to talk to Laura if you see her in the bus? I need to put that as a poll and stuff. If you were to see Laura in the Intercity bus, would you talk to her? Or would you just completely ignore Laura? But she's not speaking from experience, that's promise.
No, it's not. I'm talking for a friend. Anyway, but
to be quite fair, I mean, jokes aside, I've had mostly like really great experience with Intercity.
Yeah.
Pretty much every time I took a bus with Intercity. Now, one time, I took the bus from Hamilton to Auckland, and the bus driver wasn't giving too much commentary. He only talked like 2 or 3 times. But 2 or 3 times from Hamilton to Auckland, we're talking about like 2-hour journey at most. You still get like quite a lot of stuff, and everybody on the bus was actually super friendly. Where like they were talking to each other. And,
it really can go anyway. Really.
The only rare time when I actually didn't make connections with people on the bus was literally I had my laptop and I was working, and I was kind of like
you were the one that was don't talk to me.
Sometimes you kind of just work, and it kind of give it makes a proverbial wall between you and the person sitting next to you, right? Because you're just typing on the computer. You're not gonna be like, hey, let's chat about stuff. I'm like,
it's like that unspoken rule of like if somebody has their headphones in, they don't want anyone talking to them.
Yeah, exactly.
Matthew
Ix is heading back to the North Island this afternoon, so he's gonna see a few spots. That's cool. Well, if you were to take the ferry, just take a minute to give us maybe a bit of a shout out on the Facebook group together on the ferry. That'd be fun.
Or are you flying back to North Island?
Yeah,
there's spreading your wings. There was a question related to bus related travel earlier. I don't want to forget Adil, who is one of our regulars here on the live show.
He's saying, Kia ora, Robin and Laura and all the viewers. I would like to know whether buses in New Zealand are wheelchair accessible, Laura.
Yeah, so public buses, like, the city buses in Auckland or Wellington.
Adil is actually saying, I'm not sure whether you received the question, but he's about to type it. You don't even have to type it, mate.
Don't waste your energy on typing it again.
Replace what you're about to type with a bunch of fun emojis, right? So like that we save you time and you guess the emojis.
So sorry though it took so long to get to your question. But so public buses like in Auckland, Wellington, Queenstown, Dunedin, that sort of places. Most of the buses, actually on the Auckland website, it says 91% of our buses have either they lower to meet the curb level or they have a ramp for wheelchair users. However, so for Auckland, it's like really easy. Wellington is really easy for wheelchair users.
So just to make it clear, we're talking about commuting buses within a city. So if you were to, for example, staying in a hotel or a hostel and you want to make your way, for example, toward the Auckland Museum, for example, you can take a bus in there, like in the city bus that will take you there once you work out the city bus map. And so that's the one we're talking about. So I just wanted to clarify that one.
Yeah, so for public transport, public buses, city buses. Also for Dunedin and Queenstown, they sort of say that like the curb levels are different across those cities. So it's like sometimes the buses do lower, but sometimes they don't lower in line with the curbs because they're in different levels. So it also depends on what bus stop you're taking to go on there.
So that's a bit on and off, and obviously it comes to the city planning and all that. We're a little bit behind the curve a little bit in New Zealand. Do be aware that sometimes it's gonna be a little bit more of a hindrance to get in the bus, but usually people are very happy to help. New Zealand's a very kind country, so if that is the case,
if the bus driver doesn't assist you, which sometimes they say like, although we have all these we have these facilities, the bus driver doesn't have to assist you. It's more like if you need a carer, usually bring your carer type thing. But if it is just simply like the curb's a little bit off or something, then usually even other passengers getting on the bus.
When I was actually commuting, when I was working in Auckland, I was taking the bus at a stop which had like a broken kind of curb just right in front, and there was a guy with a wheelchair probably about 2 times a week. I don't know, maybe he was working part-time or something, but he was staying in the same bus than me, and literally like it was either me or like another guy that was waiting for the bus. We're always kind of helping him on there, and I feel like it was a no-brainer for neither me or for the other guy. It was kind of like obviously you're going to do that, so we still kind of help.
So
now when it comes to when it comes down to the travel buses, like the intercity likes and all that, are those buses wheelchair accessible?
So they're not really wheelchair accessible. They have steps to get onto the bus. You have have to be able to get onto the bus yourself, or have someone to assist you and have to be traveling with that person. Usually the bus driver isn't really, like, for legal reasons, might not be like wanting to actually help you out for the whole time. You have to kind of be independent. You need to also be able to collapse your wheelchair so you can put it into the storage. If it is
because there is no place for you to be able to have your wheelchair with you in the bus,
yes,
because there is just one line of a row and just seats on every side, right?
Unlike public buses or city buses where you'll be able to wheel your chair, like stay in your wheelchair, and they have priority seating and seating areas for wheelchair users, they don't have that on the intercity buses. So yeah, you have to be more independent yourself. The intercity buses.
All right, so while you guys are coming up with some more questions, we're going to move on with our coverage of bus travel in New Zealand. And this time we're going to be talking about New Zealand bus tours. So like the tourist way to travel around New Zealand. So this is kind of your guided way, your guided tour around New Zealand, those set bus tours, which are going to be like those itineraries that you buy where you have like 14 days around New Zealand and all that. So let's start with the different type of companies that are available in New Zealand for bus tours, Laura.
Yeah, so there's bus companies that, they aim for different sort of trips. So there'll be ones that are like backpacker trips that are aimed at people aged 18 to 30 years old. There may be more activity-specific bus tours that travel around New Zealand, like hiking tours or snow sports tours in the winter. There may be tours for seniors or luxury travelers. So there really is there's quite a lot of different style of bus tours that you can be taking. Just to give you a few ideas of different companies, although we don't really have time to list them all because there really is a lot of bus tours around New Zealand. It's one of like the main ways to travel and to experience New Zealand. So in terms of a national coach bus, one of the biggest ones is AAT Kings. For a backpacker bus experience, you may choose someone like Kiwi Experience or perhaps Flying Kiwi. There's also for small groups, small group tours that could be like Hacker Tours or Wild Kiwi. For seniors, Luxury Gold or Moa Tours. Sorry, is it Moa Tours or Moa Treks?
I think it's Moa Trek.
Moa Treks. Or Moa Trek. That's one for seniors. And then for hiking tours, Hiking New Zealand is one specific company that would specialize in that.
So we do list on NZ Pocket Guide all the companies that we recommend for each different type of travel. So all you've got to do is to go on NZ Pocket Guide, then clicking on travel tips, then transportation, and then bus. And then in there, we actually really talk about a lot of information. Another way we actually categorize the different companies that you can use to travel around New Zealand is with the length of your tour. So we actually are listing the best 5-day tours, of all of New Zealand, Northern and Southern. Then we do the same thing for 7-day tour, all of New Zealand, Northern and Southern. Then we do it for like a 2 weeks tour, Northern and Southern, and then we do for like longer, like 20 plus days. So we really give you a lot of option, and we kind of list all the companies which are operating and have a good track record. So that could be a really good place for you to get started. But then yet another way to actually select your company when traveling in New Zealand is to actually choose your departure area. So we also will list for you the best tour companies which are going to be starting in Auckland or in Christchurch or in Queenstown or in Wellington. So you can choose your departure city. So again, head to NZ Pocket Guide and you'll find all this information. Or even simpler, if you click on the link, I link to a very specific article in the description of this video, and there you will be able to get pointed out to the exact articles you want to go for. But let's actually cover more of those tourist buses, and let's cover how do you travel with a tourist bus tour in New Zealand. What does it really look like? How does it work, Laura?
Yeah. So to start with, you need to actually choose the bus tour. So that involves actually booking a tour for a set amount of days, which can last from 3 to 24 days. So there's really a lot of options. And then with that, you choose a specific departure date. great for these more inclusive bus tours, and these tours usually will include all accommodation, at least one meal a day. A lot of the times it's just breakfast, but it really can change. Sometimes it's lunch, sometimes it's breakfast and dinner, so really that's where you need to do a bit more research to see what's included. We do have a lot of advice on that on nzpocketguide.com. There are sometimes some activities included, and but a lot of the times the big ticket items are not included, so you need to see if you can add those on once you get started traveling around. And there are options to also to upgrade to private rooms if you prefer not to share either in a hostel, or sometimes there's twin share options. And then also you have the option when booking to let the company know if you have any dietary requirements. If they are providing meals, then they need to make sure that they don't make you ill. So from there, you travel to New Zealand, and usually a lot of bus tour companies will have an introduction day. So they may meet up the day before traveling, or they may not have this, or you might not have time to go. So you just basically meet at the designated time and spot that they're going to pick you up from. So you go there, or they pick you up straight from your accommodation, and then you hit the road. In terms of days on the road, you basically get to do lots of stops. You get to stop at various different scenic lookouts, maybe waterfalls, short walks to some sites. There may be some short sort of activities that are free or included. There may be wine tasting, this sort of thing. So there's really like a lot of stuff can happen on the road as you're traveling. And also while you're traveling, your tour guide is going to be giving some commentary of the places that you're traveling to and give you some more information. Also, your tour guide will be taking bookings if you want to do any extra paid activities that are optional. These sort of activities are usually things like whitewater rafting, bungee jumping. They could be guided tours to Milford Sound, that sort of thing. So they're the things that aren't always included in your bus tour, but you have options to do those activities if you want to. And then when you get to a destination, sometimes the driver will make meals for the whole group, or they'll make it a group effort to make meals all together, that sort of thing. Or in terms of the meals included in your bus tour, maybe more luxurious bus tours will include meals at the hotel they've decided to stay for the night. So it might be more of a restaurant meal. Or a Maori experience, like a Maori hangi experience sometimes is included. So that's kind of what your meals look like in the evenings if they are included.
All right, so let's cover the pros and cons of traveling on around New Zealand in the bus tour. So what are the main pros?
The main pro is that everything is planned for you, so it's really stress-free. You don't have to worry too much, other than if you want to do an optional extra activity, or what you're going to have for lunch if it's not included, which they usually stop at places to pick up food anyway. Another pro is that it's a great way to meet new people. So you're traveling on a bus with a whole bunch of people that want to do exactly the same thing you're doing, and it's just a great way to sort of socialize and have fun with some different people from all around the world. And also, it's an action-packed experience. So you're always doing something. You're always on the move. You're always getting the opportunity to go to new sites, new experiences, activities. So it's really it feels like it's a trip that you can make the most of.
And is there any cons of traveling with bus tours around New Zealand?
So some cons is that you have limited time to yourself. You may get, an evening here and there. Some tours may have a free day, but most of the time you don't really get a lot of time to do your own thing.
Go.
Yeah. Also similar to that is that there's limited flexibility. So, you sometimes don't really have time to go and do this thing you want to do. You are stuck to a route around the country. You're stuck doing the things, staying in the same accommodations that everybody else needs to stay in. It's very limited in terms of flexibility. And then finally, although it's mostly all-inclusive, it's the most expensive.
Basically, because it's all inclusive.
Sorry, because it is all inclusive. Sorry, that's why the expense of the tour, the upfront cost is obviously much more expensive than if you were to buy an intercity bus pass or so other bus passes that we're about to talk about as well. It is the more expensive option to pay up front.
All right. Okay, so we're having Anthony Comstock that is talking about Air New Zealand, and he says Air New Zealand gave me very good service, but the turbulence was scary on the way home.
Yeah.
Ooh, I do enjoy turbulences. I feel like it's a free roller coaster ride, mate.
I don't like it on small planes. Usually, like the smaller the plane, and when you hit turbulence,
the more turbulences you get on the small plane, anyway.
Yeah,
so
that's
you get
true.
more of them. Yeah. I don't mind the turbulences. Sometimes it's a bit much. Like I do remember one of them going to Aitutaki in the Cook Island was a bit of a bumpy ride, but you know.
Yeah, that was a noisy plane as well.
Yeah.
It's just like constantly like.
All right, so before we talk about the next buses, we're going to read Kiwi Lauren's comment because that's going to be a perfect transition to it.
Yeah.
She says, I loved my bus tour experience. I loved my bus tour experiences in New Zealand. Laura, what is this mind of yours? Kiwi experience was a blast, and I'm still friends with some of my fellow travelers 13 to 16 years later.
Cool.
I even met with one in Scotland a few years ago. That's
Nice.
awesome. That's really fun. So we'll talk about the hop-on, hop-off buses, which is what Kiwi Lauren is referencing in a minute. And Adil said, thank you for the in-depth response regarding the accessibility of buses. No worry, Adil, make sure to reward us with a bunch of emojis.
I'll hit like.
Yeah. Or join us on Patreon. Any of those. Anthony Comstock says, it's pretty bad, though, when your food starts flying around.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Especially for big planes. They usually bump a little bit less. So if your food was flying around, that must have been quite the fun
And you see
time.
your cookie time cookie going across the plane. No.
I hope that you were flying from Auckland all the way back to the US. You got more food than just a cookie time cookie, by the way.
Whenever I think of Air New Zealand, I just think about them giving you that little cookie time cookie.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's continue with our coverage of bus tours or bus travel in New Zealand with the hop-on, hop-off bus tours. So hop-on, hop-off bus tours in New Zealand are kind of a flexible tourist bus tour around New Zealand where you purchase a pass that will go to a certain set of destinations, but you are much more in control of what are going to be the inclusions, as you have to pay for them on the go, as what accommodation are going to be you're going to be using, as you have to book them on the go, and also as to how long you're going to be spending in each places. So it adds a little bit of flexibility to your tourist buses in New Zealand. Now let's get started with the different bus companies that are currently offering hop-on, hop-off bus tours in New Zealand. Oh, I should say the one company.
It's going to be a short list. So, prior to the pandemic, the list was extensive. There was Kiwi Experience, Stray, and Flying Kiwi. However, Stray and Flying Kiwi, certainly for this year, 2023, haven't announced any departures for hop-on, hop-off bus networks. So it's just Kiwi Experience now. So yeah, that's the hop-on, hop-off bus network in New Zealand. Kiwi Experience.
All right, very long list. One. Okay, so it is usually a bit of a more of a confusing kind of system, right? How does hop-on, hop-off work? Like, what is it? What is Kiwi Experience? How does it work?
Okay, so first of all, you need to purchase a bus pass. So the bus passes are usually for a set route of a specific part of the country or the whole country. So you can, if you're only here for, say, 5 days, there are bus pass options for that. That will fit in 5 days. However, you can have sort of 25-day itineraries, bus passes as well, which, by the way, you don't have to be traveling for 25 days. We'll move on to that later. But yeah, you buy your bus pass and then you don't actually have to start traveling until, basically you buy your bus pass and then you've got 12 months to decide when you want to start traveling. So you need to start traveling within a year of when you buy your bus pass. And then once you have your bus pass and you decide, okay, this is the date I want to start traveling on Kiwi Experience, you basically give them a call or an email and you basically book your departure date. So once that's all done, you are told where and when to meet the Kiwi Experience bus, and you go to that place at the correct time, maybe 15 minutes before, to make sure that you're not going to be late. And then it's simply a case of getting onto the bus, and the bus driver takes your passenger number, your name, or maybe one or two of those things, and then you start hitting the road. So in terms of a day on the road, it works very similar to actually how bus tours, like full bus tours, work. So you are stopping at places, photo opportunities, short walks, etc., etc. You also get the opportunity to stop at supermarkets because the accommodations that Kiwi Experience suggests that you stay at is usually hostels which have communal kitchens. So that allows you to save some money on food where you can cook your own meals. So Kiwi Experience does provide the opportunity to stop at supermarkets, especially if there isn't one at your destination that you're heading to. And there's also toilet, refreshment stops, lunch stops, etc., etc. And also while you're traveling, there'll be clipboards that are going around the bus, and that's for you to one of them will be for your accommodation. So usually there's a suggested accommodation that's basically where everyone on the bus is going to be staying. There'll be only a few odd people that may choose to stay in a different hostel in the place that they're going. Maybe they want to do some more independent travel, but most people will have like this hostel option. And they decide whether they want to stay in a dorm, which is the cheapest option, or upgrade to a private room. So they tick that off all on the clipboard. You're not paying any money in the bus or anything. You're just giving the information to the bus driver. And then the bus driver will hand a clipboard which will go through the activities. So if you want to do any paid activities, say whitewater rafting or a I'm thinking of another activity, bungee jumping, I said that last time, or skydiving, this sort of thing, then you tick that off the list as well. That provides the information to the driver. And then only once you get to your destination, the driver will drive you straight to the activities, and you will pay at the activity operator, or they'll take you straight to the accommodation, and then you pay for your accommodation nights at the accommodation itself. And then you basically spend the night doing either independent things. You can do your own thing, or you can do activities that Kiwi Experience have suggested for you to do. Sometimes there's group sort of happenings going on. You can cook meals together, that sort of thing. So it's a much more social experience.
All right, so just to come back to the different accommodation which are suggested and activities which are suggested, do understand that the bus companies, and in that example will be Kiwi Experience, they do get a commission out of each accommodation that they suggest strongly for you to use and so on, right? So sometimes if you feel like you are going to be staying in a place like, let's say, Rotorua for an entire week and skipping another bus, it may make sense for you to actually research and maybe go on our website and actually check what are the different accommodations that we suggest, and pick an accommodation which is more suited for you. They tend to be the largest hostel that they're taking you to, so not necessarily a small independent one, which are like usually quirky and pretty cool to stay at, because they need to be able to accommodate big bus tours. So do keep that in mind. Now, that said, it's a pretty cool way to travel around New Zealand, and there are some really obvious pros of traveling with hop-on buses in New Zealand.
Yeah, so a pro is that it provides the best of both worlds. So you can use it as a stress-free tour where you can just travel around the country, with the set itinerary, doing the things that the driver suggests, and it's just like, there's nothing to really think about. But on the other hand, you have the flexibility to hop off the bus and jump back on at a later date. So, you can also have independent travel sort of wedged in between as well. It's also a great way to meet new people. So you are traveling again with like-minded travelers. They're usually a younger crowd on the Kiwi Experience. It's usually between 18 to 30-year-olds, but it's mainly between the 18 to 25-year-olds. And it's usually like a fun young crowd. You can. How old does that make me sound? But you could have a great time with like-minded people, and it is a fun time. I did it back in the day when I was young, and anyway.
I was like picturing that happening.
Yeah. It's also action-packed. So each day you are doing a lot of stuff. You're making the most out of your time. They do take you to a lot of free things to do as well, so you're not always obligated to have to do paid activities. There's lots going on.
All right, but there are also obviously some cons. There is some cons in everything. So what are the cons of traveling with hop-on buses in New Zealand?
So although Kiwi Experience say their bus pass, the upfront price of the bus pass can be reasonable. you need to also bear in mind that you are going to be spending a lot of money.
Much more to it.
Yeah, when you are actually on the bus, knowing that your accommodation isn't included, so you're paying for your accommodation every night, you're paying for all your food for the whole trip. You're also paying for any activities you're adding on, which is very tempting for that to go up and up and up, to do as much and much and much as you can. So yeah, budgeting can be quite hard on Kiwi Experience. You need to, if you want to be on a budget, you need to be quite disciplined. Otherwise, it can get pretty expensive.
The peer pressure of everybody signing up for activities is real.
Yes. Okay. Another con is that the terms and conditions of Kiwi Experience can be a little bit cloudy. They say on their trips that it's unlimited travel, so you can do the bus pass over and over again, which is true for some parts of the country, but not all parts of the country. So you do need to actually look into the terms and conditions. And also, another con is, although they're advertising as like, hop on, hop off bus, super flexible, blah, blah, blah. If you're traveling in the peak season, in the summer season, which is December, January, February, usually the buses are really fully booked, and they can be fully booked like even a couple of weeks ahead. So if you're like, okay, yeah, I think in 3 days I'm ready to get back on the bus, and then you phone up and you realize, oh well, we don't actually have a seat available until the 28th of blah blah blah. Then you realize that you need to actually plan a little bit ahead in summer, and it doesn't feel as flexible in that case.
All right, thank you, Laura, for that. Okay, so we had Fabio asking when did the live stream start. We were just in the chat with the support from YouTube for about 15 minutes. So we started 15 minutes late, and we will finish 15 minutes late. So you still have another 15 minutes to ask us your questions. Robert is talking to Anthony about his food experience with Fiji Airways, and it doesn't sound like that was that great, Robert. Did you order the fish? Never order the fish in the plane. Did not order the fish.
Yeah.
Okay, Fabio is joking about Intercity being the new hop on hop off experience, although you have to book each section one by one. A lot of people do that. A lot of people actually do that, for sure. Okay, Anthony is saying that the food was good with Air New Zealand, but it was just the turbulences. Adil is asking, where can the bus passes be purchased? So again, Adil, since you're asking us a lot about mobility issues, this will not be a good option for you usually when it comes down to accessibility. The Kiwi Experience buses, like from our experience,
unless you can get on and off the bus yourself.
Yeah,
which I've travelled with a girl who was in a wheelchair, but she could get on and off the bus herself, and she could, she knew how to collapse the wheelchair, obviously, and
so
then
she could collapse it and put it underneath the bus.
Yeah. So
and at that point, the bus driver will actually be accommodating and help out a little bit and everything like that for sure, right? But it's not the most, best thing. But anyway, that said, where can they be purchased? There is plenty of travel agents that will be very happy to take your money and sell your bus passes, both in New Zealand and overseas. So travel agents work very well. You can go directly on their website. You can buy them online on the website of the company for sure. Or you can use OTAs such as Tour Radar, where you can go on their website and actually have the extra layer of safety, so like that you have their term and condition plus the Kiwi term and conditions to help out with that. So you can go on there. There is also plenty of links on our website. So if you go on NZ Pocket Guide, we kind of link you to the right place to buy it straight away. Adil says, I have more questions regarding this topic. Please consider having a part 2. Well, just feel free to list all your questions. We have like 5 or 6 videos on the channel about bus tours in New Zealand.
So put them in the comments section of our YouTube videos as well. Just when we talk about travel agents as well, I think one thing that maybe some people might forget is that even like your accommodation can act as a travel agent. So if you are, staying in even in a hostel or hotel or holiday park, and you say, oh, can you go to reception and say, can you book me a bus, an intercity bus between blah and blah, they usually will be very happy to do that as well.
For sure. All right, so let's continue and let's talk about all the different type of buses in New Zealand. And so we're going to do a very quick rundown right here of the type of buses which are also available in New Zealand. And I'm going to be starting with the local city bus. So New Zealand's public transportation network are relatively extensive in big cities. Do not expect in small towns to have really big, extensive bus networks, right? But in places like Auckland, Christchurch, Wellington, Queenstown, Dunedin, Palmerston North, Gisborne, and Invercargill, you will have decent bus, like public buses that will allow you to basically make the most of the cities. We do have full guides on each of those public transports on nzpocketguide.com, and there is a link to that very article in the in the description of this video. Just scroll down to the section that says other bus network. The way a public transport network in New Zealand work are well, you can pay to the bus driver when you hop onto the bus, just to make sure that you do have the correct amount of fare, as they're not often giving change, and most of the time don't give change because it's part of the term and conditions. But a lot of the different cities have kind of smart cards, so cards that you can load some money onto it. So in Auckland, that would be the AT Hop. In Wellington, that would be the Smart card or the Snapper card, wasn't it? At some point called. A Metro card is in Christchurch, the B card is in Queenstown, for instance. So those cards, you can buy them at like little dairy shop, little corner store, and you can buy that plastic card and top it up with some money. So you can say, okay, I'm buying the card and I want to put $20 on there, and then every time you go into the bus, you scan it and you will pay depending on which zone you are using. So very, very simple. Another way buses are used in New Zealand are on day tours.
Yeah, so if you are, for instance, taking a trip from Queenstown to Milford Sound, or you're taking a trip from Paihia to Cape Reinga in the Bay of Islands, then these are usually day tours that are taking place primarily on coaches. They're treated more as a tour, so it's not like you're buying a bus pass or anything. You're just booking a tour, and that coach transport is included. And we do have articles on nzpocketguide.com of the various different places that you can take bus tours. So yeah, check those out if you're interested.
In fact, there are some places in New Zealand which are only accessible by bus. You can't go in any other ways, and usually they're part of those day tour things. Okay, so that's pretty much everything that there is to know about traveling in New Zealand by bus. We have a lot of information, on the website on nzpocketguide.com. There is seriously a ton, and if you want to go over them a little slower at your own pace by reading, it's a great way to do so. Adil is asking, what is the theme for next week? Do you know?
The theme is, as we are changing month.
Yes, that is correct.
We will be doing our next weather theme for the weather in April.
Here you go. So that's what we're going to be doing. And Fabio is mocking Invercargill. There's next to nothing over there.
We've taken the bus in Invercargill, though. And that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
There are buses in Invercargill.
I know. We are one of the kind of people that actually have done everything we're talking about, people.
We took the bus from the city centre to Transport World, Bill Richardson Transport World in Invercargill. So, very handy service.
There you go. So, it does work. When Robin doesn't want to drive, we're taking the damn bus.
Yeah.
Adil says, we missed our Advent video today. Will there be two videos this week? No, we're about to watch it.
Don't think we're wrapping this up without... We have although we started late, we do have a little bit of time before the whole hour's complete, and we can give the quick story of Armin.
All right, so Armin is a backpacker which is traveling around New Zealand. It's a French backpacker which is traveling around New Zealand. Sorry. Year-round, actually. He's traveling around New Zealand for his gap year, but he does have some family ties in Iran, and so that is the last week for him to just visit his home country, check out with friends and family, and then he's coming back into New Zealand. He's literally actually reporting right now as he is making his way to the airport. So let's check up with him, and then we'll wrap up this live show.
Kia ora guys, this is Armin reporting on the 23rd week of what is technically my working holiday in New Zealand, but I am in Tehran right now on my way to the airport to go back to Auckland. I came here mostly to take care of paperwork and update my documents, but it's been really nice to see my relatives and friends. So last week I did go to the Time Museum, which is basically an exhibition of timepieces, many of which date back to the French monarchy era. It was really nice. I saw some beautiful things, and even the building itself was really beautiful. couple of days later, I went to the Golestan Palace, which is a very prominent location associated with the Iranian monarchy era, specifically the Qajar dynasty. I've been enjoying the Persian cuisine, chelo kebab, baghali ghatov, zeresh polo with chicken, among others. And I also went to a very good Persian restaurant, a very good Swiss restaurant with my cousins. What else do I have to tell her? I think that's pretty much it for this week. I will transit through Doha and Adelaide on my way back to Auckland. I will be arriving on Wednesday at around 1 a.m. local time. Then the day after this, I will be attending a gig by One Republic at Eden Park. It's a Spark right now, I believe, actually. I will keep you guys posted on that. Until next week, take care. Cheers.
All right, I'm hungry now.
Yeah, I know. That was a lot of pictures of food.
All right, so don't panic. Armin is back in New Zealand. He's literally flying back. He's currently, as we're speaking right now, in transit and making his way to us. So yeah, Armin is back in New Zealand, and next video will feature Armin in New Zealand. So fun times. But you may have some more world travel planned, because why not? If you can, why not? It's just really fun for us to check that out.
Yeah.
All right, so that wraps up our video today. Thank you so much for joining us for this live show. We have another hour of this live show happening in literally 2 minutes, because I'm already behind, guys. Sorry about that. Exclusively for Patreon subscribers. That's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll see you back next week at exactly the same time. There is links in the description of this video for pretty much everything we talked about, from the website to Patreon and everything in between. So check that out, and see you all next week. Bye bye.
See ya.